Hey everybody, good to see you again. Thanks for coming to the Huddles, and we are excited that you're joining our Huddles. We are working through the Grace Walk material. I'm doing a shortened version of this so that you can understand the basic concepts, and if you want to delve deeper into that information, you can do that by picking up the workbook yourself. Now, last week we dealt with a myth, and the myth was that if we can just improve our behaviors, then we'll have the victorious Christian life. And what we said is, yeah, that's not how it works. It isn't about improving our behavior. It's about a life transformation that happens from the inside out. Now, this week, we're going to talk about another myth. And that myth says that the difficulties and failures of my life, let's say the sins that I do, are what's keeping me from that victorious Christian life. And believe it or not, that's a myth. Actually, those can be the exact things we need to be transformed. So just imagine watching the Apostle Paul go from Saul, the Pharisee, into the Apostle Paul, this incredible spiritual leader that not only led the church and gave us, like a third of our New Testament, but he also witnessed to all these other people. And the Apostle Paul really worked hard to defeat these various myths in our lives. See, our problems and our moral failures can be the very thing we need to turn our lives around. It isn't until we see what we're doing now as a failure that we will even consider making a change and try a different approach. So those areas that you're struggling with, those areas that just aren't working, what if that's God's way of trying to inspire you to move forward and not use the same systems that you've been using? So we're going to go to Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 4, starting at verse 14, says, "Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has gone through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold firmly to the faith that we profess. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet without sin. Let us then approach the throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need." So this writer is saying, when you do that sin or when you fall down and you make that mistake, maybe your first tendency is to run away from God and hide and to say, okay, God, I'm not worthy. I don't deserve it. And I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. And I'm going to run away and hide from you. And this author says, no, this is the moment when you need God's grace. God's grace has the power to transform you and to make you new. And see, we can use those failures, we can use those things that are going wrong with our life as a way to inspire us to be running to the throne of grace and to be claiming God's love and goodness for us. And in fact, those failures show us where those lies and those temptations or those idols, those things that we rely on instead of God, instead of running to His grace, we can use all those, what we call failures, as ways of showing us those areas that we haven't turned over to God's grace yet. And so here's the deal. We're broken. We mess up again and again. And God says, you're going to be stuck in that brokenness, in that cycle that doesn't work. And you're going to go through it again and again and again until you find a new way. And that new way is grace. It's when we come into God's presence and we are transformed because of His favor and His goodness. And His goodness takes over our lives. So here's the deal. We go to these small groups and we talk about the things that are going on in our lives, but we only share, this much. Why? Because we're embarrassed, and because we don't really want to talk about the things that have us wrapped up and we just can't get through. But if you think about, let's just take AA for instance. These people are bluntly honest about their failures, about the struggles that they have, and they give each other grace. They identify with the weaknesses of each other. Instead of beating the person up and demanding that they change, they slap each other on the back and go like, yeah, I understand, and I'm here to help you, support you, and encourage you. And so as we come to the end of this discussion, our huddle study will be in Hebrews chapter 12. We'll start at verse 11. And you're going to look through that. And again, you're going to look at how does grace set me free to quit focusing on where I'm failing and instead stay close to Jesus, who empowers me to do it right. And what stands out to me in these verses about how to do that and how to be close to God, and reflect on it and how it fits in your life. Discuss it together as a group. And then ask yourself, what is the Holy Spirit asking me to do? How is He inviting me to be closer to Him and closer to Jesus so that we have what we need in order to live in grace?